welcome to the Wittner Museum. I see some new faces. Is it anybody's first time here? Nice. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. All of these paintings are by Paula Wittner, local artist who lives in Patagonia. And the Wittner is part of a nonprofit called La Línea Art Studio, which is just down the street on the first block of Moli, in what used to be La Frontera grocery store for many, many years. And we offer concerts, exhibitions, all kinds of programs, art classes. And when we did this project here at the Wittner, we thought it was going to be just live music and paintings, but it ended up being so much more. For example, a Nogales property reuse and revitalization program. We never thought we were going to do that. And that's been the great surprise, that there's a need for spaces for the community to gather and share ideas. So we're very honored to be hosting. I'm very grateful to Dave, Amanda, and the whole team for doing this. Hector, our community development, City of Nogales Community Development Director, for talking about downtown. So I think we all have lots of ideas for downtown. But when we talk about economic development, it's really community development. And the community has the answers, right? So hopefully today we have some ideas we can all share, and looking forward to learning about this program. So thank you all, and I'll hand it over to Dave. Oh, he's outside in the car. Do you have any questions about the space? Or I can tell you this building was built in 1898. It's one of our oldest buildings in Nogales, in Santa Cruz County. It's just a few years, the courthouse is 1904, so this was 6 years before that. There's old photos where you see like cows and farmlands next to us here. What's that?
A river.
A river. Yeah, and the building was designed as a cigar factory called Las Dos Naciones Cigar Company. And at one time, they had 60 workers rolling cigars here. And the tobacco came from Veracruz on the train. They'd come up and then they'd bring the tobacco in. And that's how they had a business here for 30 or 40 years. Very successful. And we did a renovation of the space, very DIY, a lot of volunteers, many who are here, helped us clean up the building. And luckily the original ceiling, which has its cracks still, but it looks pretty good, cleaned up nicely. But all these buildings have so much potential, so very excited to be here today. Thank you, Dave.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks, sir. I'm probably not going to use this unless folks in the back say you can't hear me. Can you hear me back there? All right, good. So what I'm going to talk about is what we call a property reuse and revitalization program. And it's a program that's funded by a federal grant. And it's one that the City of Nogales is part of. Santa Cruz County is also part of it. Grand County and Greenland County also can use the grant. what I want to talk about a little bit is the funding, also what the money can be used for, what makes this program successful, because we want to try to use as much of this money in Nogales as possible. And then I'll take some questions, and then I'll turn it over to Hector to talk about some work that's already been done previously to start thinking about how to revitalize downtown Nogales. So the grant for this was awarded in 2023. It was awarded to the City of Nogales and an organization called the Southeast Arizona Governments Organization, or SEGO. The nice thing is that property owners who are private property owners can use the money, but the city and the county can also use the money if they own property. And it can be used for a very wide variety of properties. Some of the properties that consist of old buildings might have asbestos or lead-based paint. This grant can help property owners figure that out, and there is no obligation to do any other work. You just get a report and you decide what you want to do. You got asbestos and it's in good shape, leave it alone. Don't spend any money. That's not what we're about. Same thing with lead-based paint. It can be a hazard if it's in bad shape, but don't do anything with it if it's not in bad shape. It's not an enforcement program, is what I'm saying. The money originally comes from EPA, was $500,000, but even though EPA does have enforcement programs, this is not one of them. You don't get a phone call, you don't get a letter in the mail, you don't get a knock on the door. I've been working on these programs for about 18 years now, and EPA has never done that because they realize that if it's not a voluntary program where property owners sign up on their own, it's not going to work. What this is a program where City of Nogales identifies, plans for, and provides funding and technical assistance to property owners who want to reuse or redevelop their property. And typically it's properties that are underutilized, like maybe you got a building where the ground floor has a business, but you got 2 floors up above that are empty, and maybe it'd be a great place for affordable housing upstairs. That would be a prime example of how this grant can be used. Sometimes the buildings are vacant entirely, sometimes they're abandoned, and sometimes they have a little bit of contamination. None of those things are things that you should necessarily worry about. But what this grant will do is give you information to know kind of what the next step is to getting a business in your building, or getting funding from a bank if you want to renovate the building. There's a lot of different things that the grant can be used for that can help you as a property owner. Evan mentioned that Hector with the city, who's here today, raise your hand again, Hector, is helping us with this. He is the Community Development Director, and we're very happy to have him. You can see that all of the other cities in the counties have somebody similar that they've identified to help implement this grant. But again, we're not worried about them. We want to spend the money in Nogales. This is an example of the type of property we're talking about. EPA says, well, it's property where reuse, redevelopment, or expansion is complicated due to the presence of contamination or perceived contamination. I can tell you 80 to 90% of the buildings and properties that we look at either don't have any contamination, or they just have so little contamination that nobody's worried about it. What they all have is a lack of documentation on what they used to be 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. And if you've ever tried to sell a building and nobody knows what it was 30 or 50 years ago, or an old property, you know that that's a problem. So we will document what the history of your property is. and what the current condition is. We'll give you that report, and then it's up to you to do whatever you want to with it. You can give it to a bank, you can give it to a buyer, you can put it in the trash. It doesn't matter to me, as long as you have it. And if you do have a buyer, they're going to ask you that. They're going to say, where's your phase 1 environmental site assessment? This grant will give that to you for free. No money out of your pocket. Some of these properties look like this. We call them brownfields. They might be old gas stations, they might be dry cleaners, they might be old manufacturing facilities, they might be junkyards or auto repair facilities. We also do a lot of work on buildings like this. This is an old school. We do a lot of work on old hospitals, health clinics, churches, parking lots, strip malls that have closed down, old rail yards, just junkyards and dump sites that are sitting on a vacant lot. If somebody's been dumping on that lot, how do you know what to do with that? We can tell you this stuff is hazardous, it's not hazardous. Haul it to the dump, you don't have to worry about it. And we can give you documentation that your site is clean if you're going to do that. So how do these properties impact Nogales? If there are a lot of these old properties and nobody knows what's there, nobody wants to buy them, nobody wants to develop them, nobody wants to invest in them, what impact does that have on Nogales? It's got a big impact. They don't generate jobs, they don't generate tax revenue. They diminish the quality of life for people who live here because you have to look at them every day. It's just not a good situation. But if you do redevelop them, all of those things kind of turn around. And I might say this later in the presentation, but if you don't remember anything else about what I say, remember this. The data shows that for every dollar out of this grant that's invested in one of these properties, something like $17 on average gets invested from other sources. It could be private investment, it could be other public investment other than this grant, but it routinely happens once you get one of these assessments. And property values also go up by 5 to 15%. And not just on the property that's been assessed, but properties all around that property. So how does this work? Well, the first thing is we do a brownfield inventory. We go out and we look at all the properties in Nogales that might be like this. And we do that by looking at publicly available information. The EPA has a little bit of information, State of Arizona has a little bit of information about where were their gas stations, where were their dry cleaners, things like that. We also can look at old city directories, old what they call fire insurance maps, and we can look at old aerial photographs, and we can figure out kind of where there used to be something that wasn't concerned 20 years ago, regardless of what it looks like today. Then, before we decide this is a good place to do an assessment and it's got redevelopment potential, we'll actually go out and drive and look at the property and take a few pictures, see what it is today. Because it doesn't matter what the county assessor's records say, it doesn't matter what EPA records say, it doesn't matter what's online. What matters is what does it look like right now. It might have already been redeveloped. Sometimes we find that really good properties that we identify in this inventory get redeveloped even before we get there. Once we're done with that inventory, then we'll actually start talking to the property owners and encourage them to get a free assessment. There's something called a site nomination form, and if you have any of these bags up here, there are site nomination forms in every one of these bags. So if you don't have a bag, you should get one before you leave, because they're very simple. They're like 2 pages in length. It just has very basic information, like who owns the property, what's the address, what's it been used for, how soon do you want to develop it? Because sometimes people are in escrow and they're like, I have 30 days. to make sure that I get the assessment done so that the buyer can have that in their hand when escrow closes and they can pay me top dollar. This is the focus area that we use to identify brownfield properties in Nogales. You can see it includes almost all of the commercial property here. Then we came up with a list of roughly 20 brownfield properties in Nogales, and here's a picture of what some of them look like. It's also on the board in the back if you want to look after the meeting. These are some great properties, really wonderful properties. This Crest building, owned by Mr. Jada over here, that is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful building. I mean, it's got a lot of history to it, and it's got a lot of potential. But can anybody say, does it have asbestos, does it have lead-based paint? Not without one of these assessments. But he can get the assessment, he can get it for free with this grant. You know, and then he can sell it, or he can redevelop it. He can renovate the interior and use it for something. It just exponentially increases the potential to do something with the property. Then we have community outreach and community meetings like this one where we go out and we tell people about the grant. We also have a website here that's on the site nomination form that you guys have, and you can get more information about the grant going to the website. But then the site nomination form is what property owners are asked to fill out if they want the free assessment. And that's what's in your bag. We also have a brownfield advisory committee just to make sure that we have local representatives in each community that can use the grant, that help implement it. Mr. Jada's one. Evan, are you still here? Evan is one. And Karina, who is with Casa por la Casa, yes, thank you, is also on the Brownfield Advisory Committee. But these are the types of assessments we do. We do what's called a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, where we go out and we look at records on a given property. What did it used to be? Are there any permits? Are there any signs that it generated hazardous waste at any time? Stuff like that. We also will interview the property owner and say, how long have you owned it? What have you used it for? That kind of thing. We'll look at all that other stuff I talked about, like the historical aerial photos, the Sanborn Fire Insurance maps, the old city directories. And what we're looking for is what we call a recognized environmental condition. That is, was there anything here that might have resulted in a release of petroleum or hazardous substances? If there is no recognized environmental condition, great. We'll just say no recognized environmental condition, give you the report, and you can literally take that to the bank if you want, because they will, in many cases, ask you where's your Phase 1 environmental science assessment. Those things will cost you $5,000 if you had to pay for it out of your own pocket. With this grant, there's zero out-of-pocket cost. It doesn't cost you anything to get a Phase 1 environmental site assessment on your property. If there's a recognized environmental condition and you got a Phase 1, you can get a Phase 2 where we go out, we actually collect some samples and we send them to a lab to find out, okay, there might be a little contamination. How much is it? Is it anything worth worrying about? Those can cost you $10,000 and more. With this program, it costs you nothing. No out-of-pocket cost whatsoever. We also do regulated building material surveys to test for asbestos and lead-based paint in the building. Those can be anywhere between $7,000 and $35,000 per building, depending on how big the building is. This program, no out-of-pocket costs you nothing. And then in certain circumstances, if you really have a nice building or a nice property and you want to do something extra special, like maybe you want to put in a lot of landscaping, or you want to look at putting in another building or expanding an existing building, and you do need that financing, we do what's called a site reuse plan. And we've got some examples up here that I can pass around. while some of the other speakers are talking, but the idea is, if it's in your head, that's great, but it's only when you actually have like a conceptual design drawing that shows what that looks like that investors and developers get interested in your property. So you can get this for free. Site reuse plan for free, and we'll do 2 conceptual site drawings of your property to show what it could look like under different scenarios. You know, if you put in, you have a limited amount of parking now. What if you, you know, knock down a wall and you put in more parking where the wall is? All of a sudden you've doubled your parking space. What would that look like? We can put that on a drawing for you. So these are really valuable. People have increased the value of their property many times over when they've gotten a site reuse plan. And then we also do area-wide plans, which Rhonda, our planner, who's in the back, we'll talk about a little bit later, where we look at a larger section of town. We're talking about an area-wide plan for Morley Avenue here in Nogales. We're talking about that with the city and starting some of that process tonight. The difference between the 2 plans is the site reuse plan is for one property, the area-wide plan is for multiple properties. And there might be multiple brownfields within that property, or within that area. What makes this grant a success? Well, generally speaking, Hector, as the city representative, cannot make this grant successful on its own. He cannot spend the money that has been designated for property owners. And we as the consultant can't spend the money. It actually takes everybody. It takes property owners, business owners, developers, and investors to participate in the program and make it successful. And that's why we're here today, to tell you all about it and encourage you to either nominate a property that you own, or if you don't own a property but you know somebody who does and could use the grant, tell them about the grant, give them the site nomination form, have them check out the website if they've got questions, or they can call us and we can answer the questions. But it's a 4-year grant, and the money, and we're about 18 months into it, and the money will probably only last about 6 to 9 more months. So if you're interested, or if you know somebody who's interested, you need to sign up or get them to sign up ASAP, because if we come back in 3 months or 6 months, it won't be to tell you that there's more money. It'll just be to tell you, hey, the money is gone, thanks for participating. And I don't want to exclude anybody. I'd like everybody who wants an assessment to use this grant. Again, for every $1 that's invested with the grant, $17 or $18 of other investment typically gets spent on that same property. And property values go up 5 to 15%. I think I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions. Any questions? Yes?
So the total value of the blanket grant is $500,000.
$500,000.
And so any particular testing or whatever, like the resources are going to be dedicated to, the kind of sticker price you put on the window there. And so you're talking about 8 or 10 buildings are going to be able to, something like that.
Maybe.
Maybe 8 to 12 buildings.
It can be more. It can be more. I think that there are discussions now to get more money, get another grant, and there is one more year of these grants that the city is eligible for, and the amount of money is more like $1.5 million for the next grant. So the plan is not to end things here, but to get more money and to extend this program for another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And do a lot more properties.
Sure.
But any one property, even though I said, those are the typical prices, any one property, if it really needed it, you get up to $200,000. But a lot of these properties cost less. I mean, if you don't have a recognized environmental condition, you can probably get a phase one for like $3,000 instead of $5,000. If you
Right, but that doesn't, I mean, that doesn't extend me any more money, but it
No.
may.
But it may
or may
allow
not
for more
improve
properties
the
to be assessed.
investment value.
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing is that there's never enough money to go around to assess all the properties that are out there that need this.
Sure.
Never, ever.
No, I understand.
But we try to spread it as far as we can.
Sure.
And you know.
So it's
like
helpful
Safford-
for your brand if the
Safford-
property's in better condition.
Safford has already started using this. There's a number of properties in Safford that have been assessed.
Right.
Clifton has a couple properties that have been assessed.
Right.
There's only one property so far that I know of in Nogales that's been assessed, which is why we desperately wanted to have this meeting here with you guys. Because I think there's a lot of potential there. I mean, we found 20 properties, brownfield properties during the inventory, and those generally are just the tip of the iceberg. There's normally 2 or 3 times as many as we find in the inventory that could use this funding.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes property owners are like, oh, I don't know, I'll wait 6 months, or, I really don't want the assessment because
No,
they might find a problem. Well, if you go to sell your property and the problem is there, it's not the assessment that's gonna create the problem.
Right.
And so it's better to know before you go to sell the property, right? Yeah. Other questions? You guys have some questions in the back? Hello?
Yes.
Anybody? No? Okay.
So perhaps maybe, I came in
Yes.
late, I'm sorry. So how do you nominate the property or what's?
You fill out the site nomination form, and we have a bunch of them around. If you don't have one, we can get you one.
It's that one? Yeah, it's this one.
Yes.
I just didn't know if you went over like what the requirements are.
No, you just fill it out and send it in, and we can let you know within a week as to whether or not everything looks good. Yeah.
That was my question. Within a week,
Yes,
the
within a week.
owners will find out.
Yeah, EPA, the guy we worked with at EPA, he's like, send them to me as fast as you can get them, and I'll turn them around right away, which is great, because not everybody at EPA, particularly these days, is that responsive. But the guy that we work with has been there for a long, long time, and he's like, I'm not going anywhere, and I know that you guys need this funding for the communities that you're working with.
Dave, that's how long to know that somebody's approved for an assessment, then how
Yeah.
long does the assessment, like what?
The assessment itself, sorry, I should have mentioned that. The assessment itself, like for a phase 1, that takes about 30 days. For a phase 2, that might take 2 or 3 months. A regulated building material survey to test for asbestos and lead, that's about 30 days or a month in duration. So you're not talking about a long time. I mean, we try to get on them right away and give you a report within 1 to 3 months. And the idea is if you were serious enough to fill out the site nomination form, then you need your own owed an answer as to what your property looks like and what you can do with it. And we never make a recommendation that, spend a bunch of your own money or go out and do something new that you weren't planning on doing. That is not part of this program. It's here's what your property looks like, here's what condition it's in, here's some things that we saw that you might want to be aware of. And sometimes businesses even will get the regulated building material survey because they've got an active business like a restaurant, and they want to know if I'm doing my own maintenance and I'm drilling into the wall, does that have asbestos or not? Because I don't want to expose customers to that kind of stuff. So yes, please come and do an assessment and tell me, do I have anything to worry about as I move forward with my business and make sure that I can continue to operate the way I'm going now. Okay. I don't know if you got your slides up still. let me double check.
kind of asked in the park and you want to get nice copies in the park.
Rhonda, it'd be okay if we move to you? And then, we'll go back to Sorry, everyone. We're starting now. Apologize.
Thank you for waiting. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, just fine. Okay. I want to show you some slides from the downtown. We're doing some work in the last year here in Morley Avenue. So we're going to show you some work we have done so far. So one of the things that we did initially was the lights on Morley Avenue. And eventually we're trying to expand those lights on the north side of Court Street. And the bathrooms remodel, I don't know if you're familiar with the bathroom, but we did some remodels. The lights that we did back in last year, the intent was to bring some lighting on Morley Avenue, especially on the north side of Morley Avenue. It was a little dark. At the same time, used it for the Christmas parade. I don't recall when we started those lights during that December. But the intent is to continue put lighting on Morley Avenue. This is just the beginning for the city to start working on Morley Avenue, but some of the initial steps to put some lighting that we did. So during that time, unit source, because we didn't have how to connect those lights from our east street going north. So unit source donated 4 poles to the city so we can connect on the east side of the street on Morley Avenue and on the west side of the parking lot owned by Community Development Corporation. So doing that, now the lights they go all the way to here, before the corner. But like I said, eventually we will try to continue the lighting all the way to the post office. Of course, based on city council. So those are the lights. And the bathrooms that we did, these were opened back in May 29 this year. We did the grand opening. As you can see, these bathrooms were not done any fixtures during the 1990s that I was told. But now it's brand new bathrooms, the men's and the women, and we did everything completely new. From the sewer lines, the water lines, everything was replaced. Even we use a new tankless water heater. Instead of using the tanks, 40-gallon tanks, that was better for the small space that we have inside the building. So that's how they look down. If you haven't seen them inside, please go and visit so you can take a look at them. And at the same time we're doing the bathrooms, we were told that there's some issue with the ADA compliance with handicapped wheelchairs, not able to go into the bathrooms. The only way to go to the bathrooms a couple years ago, it was for Park Street on the south side of the park, all the way to here. It was a long way. Even there in the corner, it was kind of a sidewalk, was not really safe. So during this remodel, we also designed the ADA compliance ramp, so they can be used by wheelchairs. And one of those times, when we finished this, nothing else, one person came in the wheelchairs. And I said, "Can I test it?" "Yes, of course," I told him. So he went from the bottom to the top, and he went to the top and came back really fast. He was really happy. Just something small like that, it makes a big difference for people that are not used to have a ADA compliance ramp. Not only for wheelchairs, but also for older people, even kids, people to go up. And it's pretty close to the entrance of the bathrooms. And also during that time, we found out that the stairs going up from the sidewalk to the bathrooms was really narrow. So we also fixed that. We did we remove those and make a little wider so the feet can actually fit. Maybe they were designed for kids, but although we're not actually compliant with the ADA or people. So those are complete now. This is the picture from last night. So that's done now. So one of the things that we're also doing now, we're working in a gateway arch location. This is a corner on Court Street and Morley Avenue. And initially we thought trying to also install an arch on Park Street, just south of the little park. But because of the terrain, I mean, that one is going downhill. And because of the potential work on the Dicosini Port of Entry that's coming up in the next couple of years, we decided not to focus on that one yet, but only on Court Street and Morley Avenue over here in this corner. So that's coming up. This is the corner I'm talking about. This on the northeast corner is the court building, and this is the northwest corner. And this is the corner we're talking about. So the intent is to put a gateway arch right here, entering downtown on Morley Avenue, looking south. Right here, you're looking south, that way. And one of the things that we saw also by doing this study, as you can see these trees over here, those trees are kind of bended a little bit. Rains that happen in Nogales, eventually those trees may fall down. So during the intersection design that we're working on, we may need to remove those trees. Even though they were there for a long time, I know maybe 40 years, I don't know, but for a long time. They provide very good shade right now, but they're dangerous, especially this one in the corner. So in the design that we're doing on the four corners, we're gonna plant new ones on that corner to create new shade and also benches for people to sit there. Because that corner is also used for buses, stop. People stand there waiting for the bus. So we're gonna put benches there and new trees. So those are the two locations for the footings, for the arch footings. And this is the design that we're working on. This design is already under construction. As you can see, looking south. Welcome to historic downtown Nogales. And then on the other side, the intent in the near future is to also put right here electronic sign that you can change to say thank you for coming to the downtown Nogales, and eventually change also for special events, displaying special events. So that's on the south side, and this is the north side of the arch. On the south side, we have the electronic board to provide information. So that's the design that we're working on. So a couple months ago, or 3 months ago already, the engineers finished the final design of the intersection. That's the intersection that we're talking about here. Morley Avenue and Court Street. These four corners. So the intent is to create a boulevard on both corners on the south side of the street, Court Street, and locate the footings for the arch right here. Right here and right here. So when you're looking south, you're gonna see the arch, but also the sidewalks, new sidewalks in this area, right here. And right here eventually. Here in this slide, you can see the location of the poles, the footings for the arch, right here and right here. Not close to the corner. And one of the reasons we did that push a little farther south, because as you know, downtown you still get deliveries, trucks. And the fire department told us we need to be careful because we also need to service downtown. So the arch is going to be tall enough, 17 feet. So not only the delivery trucks, but also the fire department trucks can go through. In most downtowns, they don't get that, but in this case, we agree that it's very important to let the delivery trucks come in to Morley Avenue, but also the fire department truck. So these numbers, just to show you how the city is also investing in Morley Avenue downtown. We have the Model de Model, it's already completed. The ADA ramp, like I showed you, is completed already. The street lights, the painting of the kiosk and some areas there on the sidewalk is completed. The arch is under construction already. So the city is investing in downtown. It's very important to know that not only the private sector can invest, but also the public sector, like the city. We also invest in there and also trying to encourage private investment in downtown. And that's our next phases to continue looking for private investment in downtown. One of the things that is still pending, I showed you some slides of the footings of the arch. We're still waiting for some funding to finish that portion, to create the location of the arch. The footings, that's coming soon, but that's still pending. The design of the four corners, the intersection, it cost $24,000. They give us a very good deal for the design part. We still some things to do to finish it. Something else that we're working also in downtown is to put some signs. Showing, I don't know if you've seen this sign on the south side of the kiosk. It's right there now. This is what it says. It's a brand new sign. It's telling this story about Nogales back in the early part of the century. How it used to look, Morley Avenue. This looking south. This engineer was one of the surveyors in this area downtown, Nogales. So we're going to continue doing that along Morley Avenue. When you're coming in from the north side, entering at the arch, then you're going to start seeing signs telling the story of Nogales, step by step. That way we can actually start doing tours. Like Mr. Corey mentioned, that we're working in downtown, but also he has so much knowledge in downtown. But the intent is also to provide visual exhibits when you're doing a tour along Morley Avenue. So that's the slide that I have. One of the things that in my work in other cities, a successful downtown is the key to a successful community. I worked for Mesa, I worked for the city of Tempe, in the city of Chandler, and one of the things that we did over there is start redeveloping downtowns. It takes time, but eventually we continue working on it year by year. Not only one time, 6 months or 1 year. It takes about 15 to 20 years. But yes, this is just the beginning. With the community assistance and also city council, the leadership, the property owners, and the downtown, we can get it done. Thank you.
Right, and for the final part of the meeting, we're gonna have Rhonda, who's gonna talk with you kind of about what you would like to see.
I'm gonna ask you lots of questions. So this is the participatory part of the evening. Where do you come, Dave?
You might need to let me know.
I will try. How's that? Still?
I'll try.
Do you have a little? It's been suggested that my voice is quiet.
So is your microphone.
I just can't win. Is this on? It is on. That's okay. I'm not going to talk a lot anyways. I'm going to ask you questions. So Dave indicated that one of the activities that's eligible under this grant is called area-wide planning. And so the idea of area-wide planning is that old phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. So instead of concentrating just on one single property, it looks at an entire area, much like Hector was talking about, to look at revitalizing an entire area and bringing up all of the properties in it with enhancements, with policies, urban design, physical enhancements. So what I've got up here is an area can mean a lot of things. It can mean, 6 or 8 blocks. It can mean a corridor that's long and skinny. It can mean a huge area. It can also, it can also encompass a whole variety of kinds of properties. It can be retail properties.
So if a company like TEP had what would be remedial services, such as wires blocking, overreaching easements, and old wooden pallet poles falling over in downtown, do we use the money to assess that as a brownfield risk?
That's a question for Dave.
Maybe.
Right, so
I know a little bit more.
if we came together as a community and our downtown is badly, right, the sidewalks aren't ADA compliant,
Right.
right, and we're stringing lights on areas that no one shops in and no one goes to.
Right.
You have a corridor where 7 million cars go through, and we're putting money in an area a block away where nobody even walks to, let alone drives through. So, like, we're being provided remedial services by utilities such as TEP. If you just with the naked eye look at the wiring down Main Street, it's constricted to the buildings, it's dilapidated, it's overstressed, it's an abomination. If you look at the sidewalks underneath it, you'll see old people stranded in ankle-deep water. You'll see, just remedial conditions right and left. And so to enjoy this, we get to pay parking tickets. And then, no one parks on Morley Avenue, so they have free parking there. But I think the Brownfield grant would be great to look at the people that are providing services to the community that are remedial and outdated, outmoded, instead of, I don't know, I don't know if this is the same project or if this is something separate or what the, presentation is.
With the area-wide plan, sometimes what we're trying to do is identify obstacles to getting investment
Sure.
and redevelopment going in an
Right.
area. That could be an obstacle to that.
Sure.
And when we identify those obstacles, we try to come up with strategies on how to address those things. And oftentimes look at also funding that might be available to help pay for that.
Right,
So,
federal
yeah,
funding
it's
for
possible.
roads like I-19, not Morley Avenue.
But I think the key is that we can use the grant to identify those obstacles, suggest funding sources, but this particular grant cannot be used to address those physically. Like it can't.
Well, we could look at,
Fix
the,
the
at
sidewalk.
remedial services as a hazard to the community.
But this is not, this grant won't pay to, the assessor who doesn't pay much.
It won't pay to like redo something on the ground, like restring electrical lines or things like
Right, but I'm saying area-wide planning, we could
Could.
evaluate the services
Could
that are being
regulate-
provided
It could
and
make
point out the,
recommendations that
right,
the city take.
make it a wedge point
Yes.
where we can say, hey, if we're gonna pay for these goods and services, they need to be up to date and up to standard, because they're not.
Okay, yeah. That
And
makes
that's
sense.
hazardous to the community.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm not talking about the 40 people on Morley Avenue, I'm talking about the 7 million people that drive up Main Street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.
So it's just a weird, contrast or whatever, so something to think about.
Yeah.
I think that that relates to the first question I'm going to ask you, which is doing an area-wide plan. We would like your opinion on what the boundaries of that area should be. So we know that the GSA has done a downtown revitalization plan, and Hector can talk about that. I know there's interest in Morley Avenue, but it sounds like there's interest in Main Street too. So what I have up here are examples of some of the kinds of recommendations an area-wide plan might make. They could be physical enhancements, and these are recommendations, it doesn't actually execute them. Physical enhancements, policy changes like zoning, or even programming suggestions, like ways to get people downtown and get more activity. So the first question I would love folks to speak up and tell us is, what are your suggestions of, for an area-wide plan, what should the area be? And you can tell me streets, you can come up here and point, you can say this isn't big enough. What is the area that you think you want the city to focus on and really recommend how to improve it? And feel free to, you don't have to raise your hand, just feel free to yell out what you think it should be.
I mean, is this within the parameters of the grant? Which is, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the parameters of the grant is specifically Morley Avenue.
That is not correct. It can be anywhere in the province. Or, no, it's within that map that you have. The map of inventory area.
Yeah, it's within the map, the focus area map that shows the inventory, where the inventory looks around.
Can you show that again? Because I don't remember. Do you have that? Or do we,
Yeah.
is there one of the handouts?
She's got it on board here that she can show.
So it's,
And we're primarily interested in downtown Nogales. So, if you guys said, oh, we need something 6 miles away, that probably is not a good suggestion. But if you said Morley Avenue and Grand Avenue between these two streets on the east and west, or that's what we're looking for.
So it includes Morley Avenue over here,
Uh-huh.
Mariposa over here, and then kind of follows up Grand the whole way up here. So the red boundary is where we look for brownfield properties. So the area-wide plan can cover all of that, it's a big area, or it can cover a portion of it.
And the area-wide planning comes from the same budget as the brownfield grant, it's part of the brownfield grant.
It is.
So if we spent $146,000 on area-wide planning, there'd be 3 million.
And it'd be like twice as much road, because we don't normally spend that amount.
No, I understand.
Ron is very frugal with money.
Right. Yeah, no, it's-
But, no, you're right. I mean,
But I know
it's all- it all
you need
comes
to
out of the
spend
same-
grants to get more grants.
It all comes out of the same pot, right? Anybody? I mean, who here thinks Morley Avenue needs some, raise your hand, please. Okay. Who suggests that Grand Avenue needs something? And does Grand Avenue need more than Morley? I mean, maybe they both need it the same amount, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Look at the full
Yeah.
side.
Well, I guess both, I think, that those are our main streets.
Okay,
Okay, Grand Avenue and Morley Avenue,
okay,
what people call downtown Nogales, that's the main focus area.
okay.
And one thing I've noticed, and I've heard, obviously from visitors, we take it for granted because we live here, we grew up here, and we don't notice it, is there's very poor signage.
Hmm.
Signage as to the names of streets, what street is this, the signs are too small or there are no signs. And sometimes the signs are only displayed from north to south, but then not from south to north. So maybe even like an inventory of the signage. And I think it goes, well, if we want to, tackle Mariposa, I personally don't right now, but the problem in the past has been that Mariposa and Grand Avenue are considered state streets, not city streets, and get on the waiting list, and we'll get to it when we get to you, and we've never gotten the attention we need down here from the state related to Grand Avenue lighting, signage, markings of the road,
State or federal.
so because those are state roads, they're not
Yeah.
local roads.
Yeah, that creates a whole new set of problems when you gotta stay for it, yeah.
Right, so it's like, we're trying to revitalize our little downtown area, but come on, state pitch in to address the deficiencies along those state roads.
Right.
Do you similarly feel that the downtown area lacks what we call wayfinding signage? So you're talking about street signs. But
Well, I mean-
wayfinding is like this way to downtown or this way to
Right.
specific
The
directions.
international border,
Right, how do you get to the downtown Nogales? Where would I park?
shopping.
Shopping, what's down here?
Sure.
I mean, just simple beautification, lighting, paint. I don't even want to address landscaping because complaints have always been, oh, well, what good is it if the city puts in planters with beautiful plants, but they didn't think ahead and there's no drip system? Well, they're gonna die. Okay, so, yeah. So, that's just an observation that I've seen for years on. And I think the state needs to.
That's great. I
Well,
mean,
we're
that's-
up to, it's great, we get these grants for historic revitalizations, but then it's like, we need.
You need kind of the basic stuff that comes before the beautification.
Related to safety, like signage, painting of the roads, crosswalks.
And is that safety vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, or mostly pedestrians?
Both, because I think our cycling population has really grown, and there's no cycling lanes, there's no walking designated or marked walking paths or lanes. So I think all of those are all related to safety, in my opinion, but at the same time could be beautification.
Okay. So I'm hearing Morley and Grant as kind of the areas to focus on. Mariposa, not so much.
In my opinion, that's just my personal opinion, but.
This is, granted more of that, as far as I'm concerned, downtown.
Mariposa was built on a different standard, so you can watch people drive down Mariposa in their wheelchair. This whole I-19 corridor downtown is remedial in the way of basic urban provisions.
It's lacking, when you say remedial, it doesn't have.
Well, the people that are providing the services like TV have dilapidated equipment in our streets. How are we gonna be modern when we don't have
The latest-
subterranean power lines, we don't have any plans for anything?
Yeah.
There's the commercial corridor from I-19 to get out of here is 40 yards long. And then those people are gone. There's no, they gotta pay for parking. They have weird one-way streets with remedial signage, grade point. And it's just a miserable disaster. As a commerce place, the people on both sides get screwed when they change the rules. And I've watched it since 1974, and it's, some things have gotten better, some things have gotten worse, and then generally been shut off and divided, and whatever resources squandered or whatever, it's just sort of discouraging.
So we started on the second question that I wanted to ask you, which is, if you could choose one thing or three things, what are your top things that you want this plan to focus on? So basic services, upgrades, modernity, technological.
Holding the people that provide us services accountable for what's here.
Safety, aesthetics, basic roadway maintenance, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on the point being made related to the services being provided to the city, that comes into play with intergovernmental agreements with city and county leadership putting the pressure on state departments to do their end. So revisiting some of those policies. I mean, I know there's IGAs with the railroad and there's IGAs with the wastewater treatment plant. So when was the last time our city leaders really sat down and looked at what needs to be updated as far as that goes, and now addressing this whole revitalization of downtown? So that would enter under policy advice and opinion.
Other ideas?
I think that's a good point, because we can talk about planning all you want, but who is it going to be presented to, and then who's actually going to follow up and doing something about it? Because, like, for instance, if I was a building owner and I'm being offered a phase one, well, that's great for me, but what else is going to happen with that? Let's say it sets me up to sell my building. When I sell my building, I'm out.
Sure.
It doesn't really follow, there's no follow-up there. I used to own a business down here in Nogales, right by the border, and dilapidation is just like, it's not even a powerful enough word to describe the way that Main Street is built. My building was on Main Street. But again, we're offering these plans, but what is gonna happen with those plans? Because you can plan all you want, but me who represents investors get knocked out of even contention because we have so much restriction with the city. So it's like, that's why I came down here to see like if there was actually something that was gonna happen, because that's actually what needs to happen. The planning is great, like I love the plan, but planning has no effect on result.
When you say
If you don't have somebody pushing it and dragging it.
champion, when you say restriction from the city, do you mean like the zoning is too stringent, or?
Pretty much everything. Like nobody at the city, I shouldn't say nobody. The majority of people at the city like the city the way it is and don't want to affect change. That's a problem, because people that have investment dollars and want to do something good for the city don't do it because of that stoppage. And I'm not blaming one person. It's a cloud of people from Nogales that create that barrier.
It's generational.
Absolutely. And I am from that generation where I'm from Nogales, my dad's from Nogales, my grandfather's from Nogales. Everybody likes Nogales the way it is, and when they get to my age and they want to do something to change it, there's too many people that are just fighting that system. So the area, asking what areas are positive to affect change, I would say all areas. But that's still not gonna do anything when the people that run the area don't have that vision.
So it sounds like the area to affect changes City Hall.
I would say, yeah, what we should do is send that area map to City Hall, show them what it is, because that's what the money's for,
Sure.
and then hopefully somebody at the city actually starts to change something. Right? I appreciate the gentleman here showing his face. I don't know him, but he just said it right now. We still don't have the money to build the foundation for a sign. What are you talking about? Like like what? I have investors that would come and build that sign for free if they got a little bit loose on zoning. You see what I'm saying? And it would go up in 30 days. That's, I think, what frustrates a lot of people from this county.
I mean, and so from a developer's point of view as well, looking at policy and sort of taking an inventory of what some of those zoning requirements, how are our local leaders, not just city, county as well, both planning and zoning departments, how are they working with new developers and new investors to, you sell a warehouse and the ceilings aren't just to current grade. Well, why should the new person all on their own buying that warehouse have to, or the person trying to sell it, have to bring it to code? Then they're never gonna sell it and that building's gonna stay empty. Because it's too much of a cost for me to try and sell my building. Oh, but before you do, you have to bring it all up to code because they're gonna use it for this. It's like, it's an unrealistic investment. So leave the building empty, leave the building vacant. And that's what unfortunately has happened in a lot of, not just Nogales, a lot of bigger city downtowns is there has to be a coming together of how do we work with these old buildings to bring them up to grade.
So I think it's a great idea for somebody who owns buildings in the downtown area to offer your service. I think it's fantastic because me as a lender, I won't lend 1 cent if I don't have a phase one. That's just the natural part of offering money, unless it's a private investor that doesn't care about it. But if I was an owner sitting in this hall right now, I would absolutely take advantage of the privatized feature of this grant. Absolutely, it makes all the sense. The rest is kind of like a hope dream, right? I hate to be negative. I'm usually not negative. I'm actually kind of positive all the time. But it is frustrating for somebody like me who wants to effectuate change in a city, and then I'm met with that barrier of, no, you know what, that's not a great idea.
So you're already answering a question that I haven't asked yet, which is what needs to happen to attract investment? So phase one and phase two is one thing. Potentially some kind of assistance to get properties up to code so it doesn't fall on the current owner or the future owner. What else? What else is scaring investment away, whether it's current local owners investing in their own buildings or outside developers from the region or even the state coming in? What are the other barriers that they're facing?
We're in flood zone. Flood zone, yeah.
What was that?
Flood
Flood
zone.
zone.
They were just actually showing us pictures. What else?
Is flooding a brownfield hazard, or would it be the deposits from flood?
We have to use some area-wide planning money in other places to evaluate the flood zone and whether or not you can change.
And maybe either,
A lot of communities struggle that they've done improvements to mitigate the flood danger, but they still haven't remapped it. So even though you might have a levee that's protecting it now, it still remains in the flood zone and it's hard to get insurance. So remapping it, that could be a recommendation that we make if there are changes in the flood zone is no longer accurate. Huh? Remapping.
Magic, PP. How about downtown at night? Is that something that is active, or does everything shut down after dark? Nothing.
We're the only ones that are walk. I think this building here and sometimes I don't have events, but other than that, there's no other restaurants, there's no food that day to night. Everything kind of closes at 6.
We noticed that there's only really one restaurant right in this.
Yeah, we close early as well. But we always talk about it'd be great to have, music at night or events and, other more activities.
Yeah, it's drawing. What can we invest in downtown to bring in and liven up downtown? And I think, restaurants, or bars or like this hall where they have activities. And, they just had like an art exhibit last week, which was great. So that brought people downtown. Yeah.
When you think of more things to do at night downtown, do you think of things that are happening in existing buildings, or do you think of like programming that happens in the park, or like close the street and street fair?
I tried First Fridays
Farmers market.
15 years ago, and then the little farmers market kind of spawned from that. But it's hard to, you meet people who literally say, I don't go south of Mariposa Road. Cool. So it's giving them a reason to come down here, and that's, and I've tried my little best, but, it doesn't, I'm one person.
There has been restaurants, and they closed down, like Casa 32, or what's it called?
Yeah.
They closed down, Filiberto's closed down, they just put Wingstop. I'm sure maybe, hopefully it stays open, but
15 months.
yeah, they closed down. Maybe advertising, I don't know, now with social media, but I think people are so used to not doing anything over here, and then the stores closing down that they just don't even think, oh, I want to go downtown. Or, the cops are always like, no, if I go downtown, I can't have one drink because I live in Puerto Rico. Or, it's a stupid reason, but not a stupid reason, but you know what I mean? Like, they just, no, I'll just go here in Puerto Rico because I live 5 minutes away. We're so used to everything's really close to us. If you live in Tucson, everything's far, but we're so used to just driving 5-10 minutes that if you drive 15 minutes down here, that's a lot for all the people that live,
So
further
what
down
you're
there.
kind of describing is that the perception of downtown, people don't really think of it as the center of anything.
No.
No, yeah.
No, it's abandoned, it's
It
abandoned.
used to
It's
be.
downtown in name only, but it's not really active as
This
downtown.
used
What's the
to be-
front signs? There's no occupancy. Those buildings they're unsuitable. They're gone with the times, right? Federal regulations, they shut the Morley gate, they shut the other gate, half the time. Or, it used to have like hours, now it's 24 hours, so making a little progress, but they used to stock tiendas from the bottom of Mexico or the top of Mexico City to here. This is where they come to buy all their goods. Now they do it on the internet. They've been cut off by federal regulations. It's not that easy to do commerce like that, right? So we have a great Maquila program that's really not available to small business people, but you can ship stuff back and forth across the border and not pay taxes on it because you're you take American materials there, it's processed there, it comes back. It supports people on both sides. There's tax incentives. But those don't help our small businesses. They're not populating anything here.
Can you repeat the question?
From what people are describing here, it sounds like the community perception of downtown, Morley and Grand, is that it doesn't actually act like downtown.
No, but was the question about whether you see it inside buildings or outside?
Oh,
Something
yes,
along-
if the idea is to activate downtown and have more people around, have more activities, is it thinking of events to have in existing places like this, have more events? Or is it to make programming that have an event, have a fair, a market in the park?
Mhm. Well, I just have something to say about that because I think lately we have been using the Morley Avenue corridor as kind of an outdoor space. We've had several local kind of festivals, if you will, where you have an event out here for Cinco de Mayo or for Day of the Dead, which has, in my mind, kind of redefined what it can be because it does have this outdoor kind of, especially from near the plaza or a little bit further south from here, like at that first block from the border. And I know that people have been talking about like doing their fashion show down on the border, and we have like this film festival that's happening on the wall and stuff. So in my mind, it's kind of changing where it might have at one point been something where there were spaces. And if there is some change here on these 3 spots that are turned into like a nonprofit zone.
Yep.
But I do see it as people conceiving it as more of an outdoor space.
And who's programming those things? Is it a single entity or is it?
It's a combination. I think there's the Arts and Culture Committee that is doing the 2 outdoor festivals, but for me, like this parking lot has a lot of potential in that if we rethought about how we conceptualize the space, like maybe it doesn't have to be a farmer's market, maybe it can be something like a swap meet where people would actually come and sell stuff and be able to use it more on their terms versus a farmer's market that doesn't have any produce or or food.
I have one of those, it's very disappointing.
But I think if we rethink about what people actually need, like a marketplace might be a more swap meet-ish versus more,
Basically, you need a flexible space that has like electrical hookups so you can use it.
Yeah,
for
well,
whatever
that
you
too,
want.
like the infrastructure has to be improved, but I just think we have a community kitchen that nobody uses because it doesn't seem to like kind of register for people what it could be.
You mean like a commercial kitchen?
Yeah, we have a commercial kitchen right down there that nobody uses because we can't conceptualize how to use it.
Well, they charge more than it would cost to run a restaurant, so
I would
another
never,
huge waste of money on Morley Avenue. Congratulations.
between insurance and the hourly, I would never make back.
Well, what I'm saying is, what we're doing now is not working, but it is something that's built and is there, and we could rethink about how to use it. For example, in my mind, I don't know, I lived in New York City for 25 years, so I have a kind of a different way of thinking of things, but when I see that placita and I see a commercial kitchen right next door to it, I automatically think, like, why don't we have like an outdoor cafe in the placita, like that can be serviced by the kitchen. And maybe we just need to lease that out to someone that can run a cafe in the plaza as opposed to having it be an unused commercial kitchen. If we rethink it, maybe it has more options.
It's actually encouraging that you've got those kind of events going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the rethinking is that now because of this space and the nonprofit spaces, which are more cultural, that have opened up, it's sort of reshaping people's minds of saying the downtown isn't just stores.
Yeah, it's not commercial anymore
It's
in
not
people's
commercial.
minds.
Right,
I
and
think we're changing the concept of what downtown can be. It doesn't have to be a downtown commercial district.
Yeah, and I don't know, someone said like First Fridays or whatever, I mean like, I live for downtown, my daughters live in downtown Phoenix. So the city works, they shut down the streets, there's no traffic that flows through First Fridays in downtown Phoenix. Artists come, they sell their jewelry, they sell their paintings, you have food trucks that come in and they're given a permit for that First Friday. And everybody plans, bands play, everybody plans on the First Friday that the streets are closed and it's only walking. But there's food trucks, artists, vendors, performers, cultural activities. And I think that's I see that as our potential downtown map.
Do you have an organization that could own that?
I had started it with Nogales Community Development about 15 years ago, and just nobody came. Again, it was that, I don't go past my Posa after dark.
And it's climate too, like air conditioned space,
The
it's
heat,
like vital. Yeah, there are like merchants out there with like perishable goods and it's 140 degrees, no one paid them. It's just not, no one wants to go there.
But
Hector, you've worked in a number of cities. Have you worked someplace that has First Fridays or?
Yeah, because this discussion we have right now, it happened in Tempe, downtown Tempe, it happened in downtown Mesa. This discussion is not new.
Right.
It takes time to develop those, we're trying to discuss right now. It's what I said before, it takes time.
Yeah.
But those ideas are really good. You might continue doing year after year. You don't stop.
At entrance on the 4th Avenue Street,
street fair runs to like 6 o'clock when it, you know, it runs in the fall and in the spring, and it shuts down at 6 o'clock, so there's no electricity and stuff, and people, you know, bring their generators or whatever they need, so you don't necessarily need a place with, you know, electricity. If you do it on the weekend, a lot of times they just do Saturday, Sundays, and, you know, or Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and it's closed early.
Yeah, and I think it would be an opportunity, like a first Friday for the local merchants to say, okay, on that one Friday or on that one Saturday, I'm gonna open my stores later because I'm gonna have more traffic down here. If we're bringing people in, then that may help the retail that dies down, you know.
I've always seen a lot, I'm on the board here with this and Nottingham with them. So we've tried doing a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it we got away just by doing it ourselves. But at the end of the day, some people need to make some money doing these things, you know? So we've always had trouble kind of letting people know what's going on. Because we can say what we do, but let's say the Mexican consulate's having an event, or Gallo's having something that's happening. So it's hard to have one place to let everyone know what's happening. So like we would like that miscommunication, not really, it's kind of missing. But we can't just, like, who's gonna do it? You know, like organize it. They have a whole downtown like newsletter or something.
You need a one-stop shop where people are like, what am I gonna do this weekend? And
Yeah.
you know where to go.
And with that also, like a first Friday, I think it's totally possible. But someone does it, no one knows about it, nobody comes, and then it never happens again.
Right.
So it's hard to, if you get that consistent, and say like, cool, like once a month, like first before every Friday, or like maybe like one Friday out of the month or something. But we gotta get that organized with the other people as well, to just kinda, can we all do this time, you know, and keep it consistent. But not being consistent and nobody knowing about it, at the same time, it gives us, it's hard to get people out there.
With social media, and you get all the vendors sharing it, I mean, I would think the reach would be so much greater than maybe it has been in the past. And stuff, you just gotta get everybody on board and everybody showing it and creating events on Facebook and.
That's a really great observation. So that's that's the programming part of it.
But I mean, it all also is going to require city participation, because you're gonna need the law enforcement, the streets down here.
Sure.
You know, shutting, you know, so that traffic doesn't come through, and I mean, there has to be some go-to. Do I need a permit to go do that, or do I just show up that first Friday? You know, there has to be some coordination by some entity where vendors go, where you
Someone has to own it and kind of, yeah.
So like the parking lot here, it's great, but somebody owns that. That's not just, the city can't just use it, or we can't use it whenever we want.
Well, we used it with Nogales Community Development, and they
Yeah.
didn't charge vendors, we didn't charge vendors at
Yeah.
all. So just come down and do your thing, and that was that. And, you know, I had a Facebook page, I did all of that, and it was,
I think it was picking up, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
You know,
no, it quit way before COVID. Then they started talking to the vendors, and the vendors wanted to do more of a daytime thing, and I can't do heat anymore, so I wanted to do nighttime. I wanted to think of something, you know, a nighttime activity down here once a month, and it was lukewarm, and then it just really,
Yeah, so my name is Carlos Davis. I'm the Santa Cruz County Supervisor for District 1, which is this area. So I think all these are great ideas. So I was thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe in the near future, we can like have another meeting, and I can try to invite the county manager, the deputy county manager, and then like, because there are a lot of challenges, right? And then try to come up with a plan so we can collaborate with the city and the county, and then invite the state, you know, and try to come up with infrastructure, how to solve these things, and see how we can collaborate, you know. So hopefully we can have another meeting, you know, so I can invite them and write down stuff and come up with ideas, you know, to tackle some of these challenges. And we're willing to help.
Yeah.
I mean, we're willing to help.
One of the things that Rhonda didn't say was that when she does an area-wide plan, She talks to businesses, property owners, residents, but she also has a conversation with the folks in the city and the county to find out what they can do to do the different things that the property owners and the business owners say are needed. Because sometimes it's money, sometimes it's political will, sometimes it's zoning gets in the way. You know, there are certain things the city can do, there are certain things the county can do, there are certain things you guys can't do that the businesses and the property owners want you to do. So we try to talk to both parties at the same time, and we haven't had enough discussions yet with Hector and the city, and we haven't had any discussions with the county. This is our first meeting to talk about what's needed, but we will plan to get them involved and ask, you know, here's what the community wanted, what can you guys do? Which of these items can you take on? Because
Start with like just a seasonal street fair, like start with the spring street fair and see how that does and like grow that and then move it into the fall as well and let it grow from there.
What else do you want to tell us? I mean, we're basically here to listen, so we kind of have question prompts, but this is great information, and from so many different viewpoints.
Like, if it's possible, it's possible. So let's say like Gado has the Center of Stress here, we'll bring 600 people for the bike races and the marathon stuff. If it's possible, we can do it. And it most people a lot of time. But we could handle that maybe.
I would also recommend that if the idea of doing something like a fair or whatever is to steal other people's idea that are already successful at it. So number one, like the two-back fair, right? I don't want to go to the two-back fair, but my wife does, right? So then I end up going to the two-back fair all the time. But it's fantastic and it's full of people. So whoever runs that fair, hey, would you like to run a fair in downtown Nogales?
But like, who pays them also?
They make money by renting out the stalls, right? So that, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. And then I would say, do you want me to give you some advice? Be ready for whatever it is that you plan to be stonewalled at the city.
Yeah.
And then be ready to just move forward after that. To like keep doing it, right? Because that's just what happens.
Be stubborn.
We're here, we're happy to hear anything, but I also know you've already given us 2 hours, so.
So we just have a couple of door prizes to give away, and we sure would like you to take a review. So that's, we'll just wrap up now. Let me.
So I'm gonna volunteer Hector of the city. If you have comments, please don't give Hector, but go to us. Or if you want to go super old school, I have business cards. I can also give you a digital business card. And this is not your only chance. This is kind of getting your thoughts.
Yeah, I said I would like your old school business card.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
I'm going to try to get a somebody to see. So
Alright.
it's not an issue.
So excited. I would have thousands of business cards.
all right, we're gonna have a raffle. So I have a ticket.